Thanks for listening to the Conscious Diva podcast. If you're new here, I'm Tatiana. Joining me in this episode is shamanic practitioner Cissi Williams, who began channeling wisdom from her physical heart after her own heart attack. In this episode, Cissi shares how her actual heart became a powerful portal for healing. It was a deeply transformative journey that led to a sacred relationship with the divine feminine and ancient wisdom, and the writing of her latest book, which we discuss in this episode, Your Heart Knows How to Heal You. The Sacred Medicine of the Four Chambers of the Heart. In this episode, we discuss how her shamanic practice awakened communication with her physical heart and how you can discover the healing medicine found in your heart's four chambers through shamanic wisdom and guided journey practices. This episode is packed with valuable tips on how to tap into the innate healing power that resides within our own physical hearts. If you enjoy this episode, please take a moment to write a review, follow me on Instagram, and share the episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here today, Cissi. It's so lovely to chat to you about your new book.
Oh, I can see lots of little markers in that.
Your Heart Knows How to Heal You, the Sacred Medicine of the Four Chambers of the Heart. So, your journey was really interesting, and you were so young when you had a heart attack, 51. And you were an osteopath and you have become a shaman. Were you interested in the shamanic path before?
Oh, yeah. I was already teaching shamanic energy medicine. So I've been on that path kind of consciously by stepping into it and training in it already in 2010. But I could see that the shamanic way of working was already present. That's actually why I started on the shamanic path, because I used to do a lot of NLP coaching and breakthrough sessions and things like that. And I developed my own way of working, which was actually very shamanic. And then I read a book by Alberto Villoldo called Healing Your Past and Mending Your Future with Soul Retrieval. And as I read it, I realized, oh my God, this is what I'm doing. But what I was doing that would take 8 hours was here shown in a beautiful mythical way. So that now when I work with that way of working, it's like what used to take at least 8 hours and several sessions will now take like less than 2 hours. And it was my soul calling me forth to step onto the path. And I actually emailed them when I got that book, because we had just come out with a magazine in Sweden. And it was also when the finance crisis hit. And, coming out with a magazine when you're practitioners yourself is a very expensive thing. And we were out in the shops and everything was full on. So I really didn't feel I could invest that money in myself. So I emailed them and said, can I come and do your training in exchange for me writing about it and you having an advert in our magazine? And they didn't reply. And I emailed 4 times. And on the 4th time, they replied and they said, we hear your soul. Yes, you can come. And I'm like, yes, I just knew I had to do this. And
I just
loved it. And I did it for me. I never, ever in a million years thought I would ever work with it. I just knew my soul called me forth. You have to do this. And it wasn't until we were on our North module, you go through the wheel. We had to create a fire. It was part of our test. And the teacher said, if you can't create a fire, then you're going to fail and you can't continue. And it was a stormy day. We were out in archipelago in Stockholm and we were not allowed to have any sort of help of creating this fire. And I'm like, oh my God, this fire is not going to take. And then it took, and I had these 3 logs creating this fire like a little teepee. And then suddenly they collapsed. And I'm like, my first thought was, oh my God, I failed this test. And then I could see that the logs, they fell in such a way that they created the shape of an arrow. And the arrow was pointing to the teacher's fire. And I'm like, I get it. And that's when I accepted that I was meant to also later teach it.
Wow, that's a really powerful experience.
Yeah, it's like when it bypasses your mind. So by the time I had a heart attack, I was already very well versed in journeying into the mythical landscape of your soul.
I have a question about that. So, I mean, because you don't share that whole story at the beginning of your book, but you talk a little about your shamanic experiences.
Yeah.
When we're practicing this path, very in communication, direct communication with the elements, with spirit, with our spirit guides. Was there any inkling? Because of course you say you were like totally in denial that you were having a heart attack in the story.
Oh yeah.
The story. But there must have been one part where your guides were saying, listen to what's happening. You need to go to hospital. Like listen to your heart, like let him take you.
Well, my husband definitely voiced that. I mean, when it happened, I was busy working on my podcast episode. And then I suddenly just got this extreme acute pain in my chest. It was so bad, I fell to the ground. I was sitting on my sofa, I just fell to the floor. And it was sharp. I mean, I could not breathe. It was radiating up to my right jaw. And it was the most severe pain I've ever experienced. And then at the back of my mind, I kind of knew, of course, I'm trained. And then it went away. So I just sat back down and I was going to start on my podcast episode again. But I did send a text message to my husband because I realized I was on my own at home and my daughter was asleep upstairs and I didn't want to scare her. So I sent him a text message saying, don't worry, but I've had extreme chest pains radiating up to my right jaw. It lasted for about 5-10 minutes and now I'm fine. And he was teaching osteopathic medicine in London and he just drove straight back home. And he was pleading with me. And I was like, no, I'm fine. But he got me to go and see the GP. I actually didn't go and see the GP because I wanted to see for my heart. I actually had a problem with my neck. And I was going to run a retreat a couple of weeks later. And I was more worried about that. And she was not worried about that at all. She said, come in. And then I went in and then they saw on the ECG that I had all the signs of a heart attack. Mm-hmm. And it started to dawn on me a little bit, but I was still not feeling too bad. And she actually didn't send me to hospital because I actually look well. It's actually a problem we have. My mom had the same. My youngest has the same. I mean, my eldest too. We actually look really well even when we're ill. So my youngest had to go to hospital last week. And she worked for 5 days with a really high fever. And she was really unwell. But she looked well. So her work didn't believe her. So by the time she got to hospital, she had a quinsy, which is like when you can't then breathe because the infection is spreading and it creates like a blockage to your windpipe. It's actually a medical emergency. And I could hear on her voice that had developed in her when I spoke to her on the phone. So I got her to go in. So anyway, we look well. So if you're in denial, that's not helpful because it kind of perpetuates that. But in the end, I did go to hospital. That was 4 days after the heart attack. And they took all sorts of tests. And it was a moment there when I was on my own. And that's when it hit me that I had a heart attack. And my mom had one when she was 48. She had a really, really bad one. She lost more than a quarter of her heart. And I didn't. I mean, I had a minor one. So I was very, very lucky. And I saw what it did to her. She became a prisoner of her own body. And I could feel this fear come up. And I share that. I felt like this arm rising up to grab me and bring me down. Hopelessness, helplessness, feeling that this is my fate. We have a blood clotting disorder. I have that blood clotting disorder. So it's easier for us to get blood clots. 2 of my cousins died young when they were in their 20s and 40s from blood clots. So I felt that. And it was so easy for me to just be sucked into that. And it was paralyzing. And then at the same time, it's like I had that path opening up. I could see this other path. And it was the path of me surrendering into my heart's wisdom, allowing my heart to become my teacher. Never to go on a quest to fix my heart, to heal my heart, I did that when I was younger and started on the self-help movement. And if I just heal my thoughts, I can heal anything. And by this stage, I was older and wiser, and I knew that's not necessarily how life works. And I was just willing to surrender fully. And I did. And I could feel in that moment, I mean, it was a split second. I could just feel peace descend. And I just knew that somehow it would all be okay. Not that I would heal, not that I just knew somehow it would be okay because I was now listening to my heart. So when we then later drove back home, or my husband drove back home from the hospital, I did just tune into my heart and said, okay, I'm willing to listen, I'm willing to be guided. And the first thing it did was actually to change my diet straight away. And it put me on a really extreme diet I would never put a patient on, because it was so extreme, but I trusted it. It had done the same.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, just because you share a lot of that. That's all the first part of first chapter in your book. And I just would love for you to share how your heart was to communicating this to you, because there might be listeners who don't know, who aren't attuned to that wisdom. I totally understand. I practice shamanism. My teacher's the 27th generation Nepalese shaman, so I practice in the caste Nepali tradition. And similarly to you, my father had not a heart attack, but a stroke. And I also carry a protein that can make me predisposed to that. My grandfather also had a stroke. It left my father in a state of very, like, he's totally disabled. And that was 12 years ago. And I was in my 40s, before I was 40, when that happened. And it really made me radically think about my life and think about how can a seemingly healthy picture of absolute health, this man, he had a six-pack. He was 79. 69 at that time, almost 70. Looked incredible. Ran 5 miles every day. Did 100 push-ups. Skied. He lived in Colorado. Skied like 90 days of the ski season. Was very healthy. Never smoked a day in his life. Barely drank alcohol. And so, as you said, if someone looks healthy, you just don't believe it. How can this inner thing be happening? And so I really wanted to understand through epigenetics how could he be a carrier? Am I possibly one? Could this happen to me and my children? And then similarly to you, because I was already on my wisdom journey, my shamanic journey, I could attune to my spirit guides who were literally helping me and guiding me. And I literally hear them speak to me, not as a voice in my head, but as an external force. I'm sure it's probably similar for you, and feelings in my body. So I would just love for you to share, how did your heart speak to you? How did it communicate these life-saving lessons that not only saved your life, but healed your heart, as you explain really beautifully how you did those journeys into the different chambers and how you came up with the different chambers. And I mean, there's just so much. And I mean, I really enjoyed your book. And there's so many sections I'm actually going to go back and reread and do as not read the book as like reading the book, but actually doing it to like literally go back and heal parts of my own ancestral lines.
Yeah, because it's through your experience that you find the wisdom that is there for you, the medicine that is there for you to heal it. It's a really great question. And I wish there was just an easy answer. So, but it isn't, because we're all unique and different. So your intuition will speak to you in the way that it best can reach you. So for me, being an osteopath, it absolutely reaches me through my body. So I get an inner knowing and inner feeling. When it came to the diet, it also actually showed me physically. So when I tried to eat potato gratin, I immediately, it just came up. And I love potatoes. I'm Swedish. And
you live in the UK.
And I live in the UK, and it just showed me, no, this is poison for you. It literally just came up, and I still can't eat potatoes actually, which is a real shame, but I just can't do it. The other bits with
and that's because of the starch. That's because potatoes are starchy.
Not necessarily.
No?
I think I haven't actually gone in and diagnosed why it is, because I just know I'm allergic to it. But if I were to tune into it, it's probably more to do that it's an inflammatory food in that way. But for whatever reason, I'm also allergic to vodka. I actually am allergic to alcohol, but I'm definitely allergic to vodka. But then my dad was an alcoholic, and his poison was vodka. So it could be all sorts of stuff lying there in why it is potatoes for me. But with that one, there were so many other things I had to look at that I just went, okay, my body doesn't like potatoes, and then I just let it go. So it's through inner knowing, inner feelings, witnessing how your body responds. And for me, it's then especially through the shamanic journeys, and that's what I share in the book. The first journey my heart guided me on was the journey into the 4 chambers of my heart, which is what the book is based on. And that's my main guide for tuning into any form of wisdom for me. Because when I'm journeying actually with my body. So I know shamanic journeys, you can also journey through your third eye and you see things, and I do see things, but I especially journey through my body, very much a cranial osteopath. So I'm journeying through my body, through the feminine, which is actually a very feminine way of journeying. It's also what we do in Seder, which is the Norse shamanic. We journey through our bodies, through the feeling. You know this. I can see that you have experienced that. And as you journey through your body, the body will then reveal to you also images, smells, sounds, the information that is there that reveals to you the mythical landscape of your soul that is holding the wounding, for example, that I needed to witness. And then it guides me on this journey. It's like a soul retrieval journey. Where you first witness the wounding, you witness where it came from. It's like you start to get all this information, what is held here in this wounding, and then it guides you through your body in how to shift and release this. So it's completely led by the body, by my heart, by the divine mothers of darkness and light for me, because they were the ones that came to help me heal my relationship with the feminine of darkness, which was actually already good, and light, which is where I had my issues, because I received rather light from the mind, from the masculine, than the feminine. The feminine, I had so many fears around receiving her nurturing love from the light. And again, these mythical journeys showed me that, and also showed me how this was not in my personal history only. This was so deep in my ancestral lineage. And that journey had actually started just over a year before my heart attack. And it was when my mom died, because it was as if she had buffered a lot of this wounding, which was actually quite poisonous and quite venomous. You know, the wounding in the feminine, where we become vicious and we turn on each other, and it's the backstabbing and the wagging of tongues and the talking badly about all of that is there in all, in, you know, in the collective, in the feminine. And when she passed away, that was kind of downloaded into me like a poisonous chalice. And that took me on a really deep journey of healing that, of really witnessing that in myself and in my lineage. So that by the time the heart attack came, I was well and truly surrendered anyway to the divine mothers, because I recognized I could not heal and shift this from my mind or from what I previously knew. I had to be guided by a more deeper ancient wisdom than I had encountered before, because this was so deep where they were guiding me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense to me. Thank you for sharing that. I'm just going to ask you some questions to perhaps explain it in another way for listeners. So you are connected to the Norse mythology, but also Alberto, he's in a South American tradition.
Actually, that was my introduction. And I'm really glad that I was given a structure. And it was
like is it core shamanism that he practices?
No. He does
Sandra Ingerman does core shamanism.
Sandra Ingerman does core shamanism.
Yeah.
And it gave me a structure and a door in. But the moment I started to journey in, I was never met by any of the spirit beings from the Amazonas and the Andes. What came was the Norse goddesses.
Interesting.
The Norse goddesses, and then they later introduced me to the Celtic ones. It's like my own ancestral wisdom started to emerge from that, because that's my medicine. But it gave me a way in, and because it's still alive, that practice. So, but once I was in so I don't do any of his practices anymore, because this has evolved into something completely different.
No, I figured that. And of course, you it's all through your book and the journeys that you're presenting in here. But I wanted to just, have you clarify that, for listeners who may be familiar with shamanism, but also it might be a new, not a new topic, but maybe just concepts, And so with that, so you met these Norse goddesses, just share a little bit about who are your key. And again, also interestingly, I don't really think of Mary Magdalene as a Norse goddess.
No, but she still works with me a lot. And she
Totally,
was
totally. Yeah.
perfect in the book because,
Mhm.
again, I'm very much based here in England and
Yes.
Glastonbury and all of that. And she embodies both the darkness and the light in her. And she also embodies how she was silenced for 1,500 years, how they twisted and distorted who she truly is, and how her consciousness is rising within us,
I
just
totally
like it's rising
understand.
within us. So when she came and wanted to be part of the book, I'm like, oh yes, absolutely,
And
you're
that's a
gonna be
beautiful
here.
journey. I did that journey. I listened to it. I really loved it. It was such a beautiful experience for me. And for listeners, if you want to listen, it's free. It's on your website. You can go to
Yeah,
Cissi Williams. It's /heart.com. Is that correct?
yeah.
And you can totally listen to that one there, and also a journey for to the four chambers of the heart. So just
Yeah.
backtrack a little bit, quickly explain what are the four chambers of the heart? Which of your goddesses, who guided you to discover these chambers?
It was actually my heart that guided me. So what I did was I just knew I had to journey in, and that's what was very shortly after we came home from the hospital. I just felt it's time to journey in, and I journeyed in following the flow of the blood, the way it flows through the four chambers. And it was really cool because this journey was so clear from the beginning. And after the journey, I had to just go and tell my husband, you will never believe what I discovered as I journeyed through the four
Were you
chambers.
drumming for yourself, or you just kind of went
I
into
was
a
rattling.
meditative state?
No, I was rattling. I was using a
A
rattle. So
rattle. Okay.
the way I did this, since you're working with shamanic stuff, I actually held a hand on the different heart structures. That's what we do as osteopaths.
Mm-hmm.
And then I journeyed with my rattle. But the way I teach it in the book, I have mapped it into the mythical landscape. But the way I journeyed was actually in through the physical structures. Anyway, I followed the flow of the blood, and I came to the first heart chamber. And this is where the blood comes when it's now deoxygenated. And so it's coming back to the heart to later go up to the lungs to become filled with oxygen again. So it's now poor in oxygen. And as it came into the first chamber, it was like I realized this is when it's poor in spirit. This is like the season of autumn, when everything in life that is poor in spirit is now meant to be shared, released, let go of. And I'm like, this is so cool. So this is like early autumn. And then I actually follow the flow of the blood also through the valve, which I haven't shared in the book, but that's the autumn equinox. And I realized that this is the autumn equinox now. And I moved into the second chamber. And here I was met by the dark goddesses. And they said, this is our domain. This is what it's like in early winter when we move into that sacred darkness. We're moving deeper into ourselves. And this is when we really witness our shadows, our deep inner wounds that we're meant to transform, because we now let go. So that is no longer kind of stopping us from journeying. And now we instead can just be here in that darkness. And this is a real powerhouse in the heart. It's also a real powerhouse if we think of the wheel of the year, that early winter where it looks as if nothing is happening, but such a deep transformation is taking place. We're really, when we allow ourselves to surrender to it, we're really transforming. It's like coming into the cauldron of the dark mother, really surrendering into that. And the dark mothers are definitely my main teachers. And then I follow the flow of the blood.
It made me think of Kali
Oh
and
yeah,
really
it's
active mothers, got, the
yeah,
Mahavidyas, the 10 great mothers in the Vedic
yeah,
tradition, or
yeah.
Tantra. I was really like, oh,
All the dark mothers, and what's beautiful with the dark mothers is that they are all so similar, regardless of tradition. They all carry the same medicine, just expressed through different accents.
yes.
And they all have this holy fire. They all are portals of life, death, and rebirth. And they have all been so distorted by patriarchy. And they are loving. They are loving. They are loving. They are scary to the ego because it's like an ego death completely.
Yes.
Like the story of Inanna, which I share about in the second heart chamber, because that's the complete ego death we have to move through in order to then later be resurrected. Anyway, all of that is here in the second heart chamber. Then I followed the flow of the blood, and now I went up to the lungs, and I saw my lungs as this cosmic angel. I could not believe it. This was just so cool. Breathing in inspiration, breathing in light, breathing in medicine, breathing in life, that new expression of life. And I realized this is what we are experiencing at the winter solstice. In the midst of the darkness, the light is reborn. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is happening in my body for every heartbeat, and it's happening out there in life. I mean, it was so incredible. Then I followed the flow of the blood, and now we went down to the third heart chamber. And here was like I was now bringing back all that light, all that oxygen, if we now think of the blood, all that medicine into my heart. And here I was met by the light mothers, who are all solar goddesses. And they were showing me that this is early spring, and especially actually early spring in like the Arctic, where my ancestors are from. That beautiful light from the sun, it's very gentle, it's very soft, but it's very powerful, because as nature receives her light, all that which is frozen melts. Yeah. So life, the magic of life, can be ignited again. And again, it's just amazing when we recognize that. And this is also where I had a problem in my heart. And they said it's because you're good at receiving it from the divine source, but then you just want to bring it straight through your heart and down into the fourth chamber and out into the body, out into the world. So we're keeping some for you. And I later, it was probably about 2 weeks after I did this journey, I had an echocardiogram where they could see that the valve here is leaking. So it's like blood comes back into my third chamber, which I thought was really cool, that I actually could see that through the shamanic journeys. And that's not a big problem. My main problem here was late in the coronary arteries, but I had an issue there. And then I followed the flow of the blood coming into the fourth heart chamber. And again, here I could see this was like early summer, where we have received so much light that our dreams and our visions and that new life we have received from the divine source, it's now grown and grown and grown within us. And now it's blossoming. Now it's going through its own rebirth, just like nature does. And then from the fourth chamber, it then takes all this blossoming, all this light, all this medicine, all this life out into the body. And my heart was showing me the body is a representation of the world. So this is what you're now meant to do, to bring all this life, all that which is blossoming within you, all your gifts, and share them with the world. And it was just so beautiful to recognize that this cycle, seasons of darkness and light, the medicine of both the darkness and the light of the feminine, is happening within my heart. And it was this that my heart wanted to show me. You need both of the feminine. You need to heal your relationship with the mother within you, with the ancient mothers within you. That is what's gonna guide you, take you on the path that we have planned for you. And it really did that. Another one actually with the heart, which I do share in the book, and I feel that this was so it meant so much for me when I saw that. And they shared about my coronary arteries, because that's where I had an issue. And I had an issue on one of my left coronary arteries. And when I journeyed in to work on my coronary arteries, they were showing me that just like the body is a representation of the world, the heart is a representation of us. And the coronary arteries, their only function is to supply the heart. And they showed me that the coronary arteries are the rivers of blood connecting you with your ancestors.
I thought that was so amazing and beautifully described in your book.
And as they then journeyed with me, I had to witness the wounds in my ancestral lineage so that I could then be guided through this process of healing that, so I instead could receive the medicine, and especially the wounds actually held in the left for me, which was all about the sisterhood and all of that was there. And again, it made so much sense when I saw that. And you can't make this up.
No.
That's the power of journeying, because when
Yeah.
you journey in, you're being met by this deeper wisdom that goes beyond your mind, and you can feel the truth in your bones. Yeah.
And it's true. Gosh, I wish that shamanism was taught more openly,
Yeah, me too.
because we do have these natural innate gifts, these abilities to alter our states of consciousness without taking drugs or mind-altering
Yeah,
substances. And there are places for that in medically, supervised environments that psychedelics are really helping people who have experienced extreme trauma, and their things are locked within their bodies. But if you are able to have this experience of the journey with a practitioner, a shamanic practitioner, they're so expansive and just so unexpected. And we're shown these amazing things that are so real. I mean, we're literally crossing the veil, stepping into these other realms of reality that we're so taught, particularly in the West, that they're not real. It's your imagination. You're making it up, or you're crazy, or what are you talking about? But they're, when we really allow ourselves to attune to this sacred medicine, these experiences are like life-changing.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Really
And they
incredible.
really do have an impact on not only on you physically, but on your life,
Oh,
because it
100%.
changes you completely. And actually about that, so for example, my students are not allowed to take any psychedelics, anything like that. It's not part of, certainly not part of how I would share it or teach it, because when you are, the power we step into, the deeper we go for when we learn how to journey like this, because that takes time to develop.
Mhm.
The power that you access is so powerful that, first of all, you don't need drugs. You
Well,
really
also you're
don't.
learning how
Yeah.
to drop into that space on
Yes,
your
and
own,
you develop,
right?
exactly, you're
Yes.
developing your own strength, your
Yes.
own
You
ability to go there,
cultivate that. You're
and
cultivating it.
therefore it is always safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like if you go trekking up the mountains, if you develop your own strength to do it, then it's safe. Whereas if you just fly up, then you can get all sorts of problems. And then you also own it.
Yeah.
When you develop that ability, for me, that's been the greatest gift I've ever given myself, is to learn how to do shamanic journeying,
Yeah.
because it gives me so much access to a wisdom that is not available in my everyday consciousness,
Mm.
but that is longing. I feel it's a she for me. She's longing to rise and become part of being weaved into this world. And I do feel so passionately that it is her medicine that is needed in our world, the medicine of this wise feminine presence that's been suppressed and silenced and distorted for so long. And I do feel we are hearing her now. We hear her calling us to
Yes.
make this journey of descent. And when we then start this journey and we develop our own ability to do it, trusting that it is safe, your body loves you. It will only reveal to you that which you are ready to witness.
Yes.
Always, always. Yeah.
Yes. Even when I work with my clients, it's amazing. And Spirit will always check in, and I'll say, okay, they want to know, okay, do you want to hear more? Because they don't think your body's physically ready, as in, translation, your nervous system's not going to be able to take it. This is as far as we can go today, because there's so much has arisen and so much has been revealed that you need to now go do the work and process and follow the instinctual guidance that's come from you from a higher place, so that you can really heal yourself. I know sometimes we, of course, need, like in the instance of you with your heart attack, you needed to go to hospital, you needed to have the ECG, and you needed to be shown, that this is happening, even though you were being
Yeah.
told, in other realms, in other ways. But you needed to be told. And of course, they could then help you with that. And I loved in your book how they said, the doctors, after you doing your journey work for 2 years, they were like, hang on a sec, did she actually have
Yeah, I know.
No, Coronary, did she
You know,
really have this problem?
something
Because you're
that's
so
quite
healed.
cool. Yeah, I know. Something that's really cool with that was that me and my youngest, we actually went on a bit of a journey. We journeyed into the darkness for a whole month in November to really meet the darkness. We journeyed up to the Arctic Circle and we spent a month there.
Oh, you literally journey, like
Oh
you
yeah,
went
yeah.
on the
We
trip, an
literally
expedition.
went there. Yeah, we
Yeah, yeah,
literally
a
went
physical
there.
journey,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
a
No,
shamanic
we
one.
actually literally
Okay.
went there. And then we literally went there also at the end of May for the midnight sun to
Wow.
now really meet and embrace the light. And we both had more issues with the light than the darkness. And of course, in my heart, that's where the issues were. When we were there, I got a call from my GP saying, we want you to come in. And I'm like, well, actually, I'm up in the Arctic Circle right now, so I need to wait. And I said, okay, can you come in when you're back? And I said, sure, sure, sure. So that was when I went in. I went in to see the GP about a few days after I had been back to really immerse myself in the light. When it's light 24/7, really be in that medicine of the light. And that's when they told me, yeah, the cardiology unit, they want to discharge you. They think they might have made a mistake because they can't find anything wrong with you. And I'm like, that's fine, that's cool. And I knew that that wasn't a coincidence, that also happened just after I had been physically in the land of my ancestors in the light. Yeah, because that whole journey was about honoring the medicine and the wisdom that my heart had shown me by also walking the lands.
And my daughter and I did your listens to your 4 chambers of the heart journey. And interestingly, in my daughter's 16, we both like I wouldn't say completely fell asleep, but definitely drifted into another space at the exact same time, just before the 4th chamber. And we then,
Interesting.
yes, and
Yes,
then
so
when we
that's an
came up,
issue.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
And
yeah,
this is what, it's a 26-minute practice. Is it 36
yeah.
minutes? It's not very long.
26
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah.
So we we both came up at the same time and we looked at each other and she said, I think I missed the 4th chamber. And I said, so did I. And then I went,
Yeah.
interesting. I'm like, there's
How
something
interesting. There's
here.
definitely something there.
Yes,
And
that we
again,
need to
that's
look
the
at.
light feminine. That's
Mm-hmm.
actually when you're stepping into the real magic of her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like that magic that creates the rebirth. Yeah, it's the real power. So that's, if you look at now the 4th chamber, it's actually when you're journeying with Freya as Gulveir, which is the ancient witch that rebirths herself, whatever the sky gods, which represents the mind, do to her when they try to spear her and burn her. So they try to kill her 3 times. Each time she rises. They can't kill her. And it's actually from that moment that they then recognize that they're in the presence of greatness. And they represent the mind. And they're now in the presence of greatness because Freya is the soul. She represents this everlasting life of the soul that has the ability to birth life. And that's when Odin becomes her student. So it's like the mind now bows to the power and the wisdom of the soul. And then it can be taught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Really, really beautiful. And I definitely, that's why I said earlier, I need to go back and
Yes.
really go, sit with a few of the things that came up for me, that I felt, you feel it in your body. It's a truth, right? It's like, okay, there's something that that needs to come up, that needs to arise. And then for the last week, my right leg has been just showing me there's like pain, physical pain that's been wanting to come up and leave. So I've been doing a lot of tuning into that. What is this?
Interesting.
That needs to come out. That's, who is it? Who or what timeline is it associated with? It feels like my mother. It's really interesting. But and the ancestors in her line. And so
interesting. You see, that's really interesting because in the book, I share more about working with, because there's so many different ways of working with these metaphors. So one of the ways of working with the metaphor of the tree of life is that on the right, you have the masculine, on the left, you have the feminine. However, these days I work a lot more with Seder, and then we journey in on really connecting with the feminine on both the right and the left. And then the right is the structural feminine, the holder, that is more like progesterone in the body. So progestation, the one that creates the cauldron for your magic to grow. So this is when you would have had real structural magic of the feminine that can hold that power. And then on the left, it's the fiery feminine, more of the estrogen that ignites the spark of your magic. So interesting. It could be something there too about that structural feminine, which many of us have ignored, thinking that the structure comes from the masculine. It's actually quite an interesting story with that. I won't share too much, but do you know Sarah Bertrand?
Sarah Bertrand?
Sarah Bertrand, who wrote Womb Awakening and Mary Magdalene Revealed.
No.
She's amazing. She's amazing. And she was teaching the same time, the same week as I started to journey and connect with the structural feminine of the Queen of Ice from the Norse sagas. You have ice and fire. And she was talking about exactly the same thing. So it is definitely rising, that ancient awareness, knowing of the structural feminine. Yeah.
It's interesting. When I was first being introduced or called to the shamanic path,
it's definitely a calling, isn't it?
It is a calling for sure.
Yeah.
And I had no idea who my teacher was going to be, who was going to reveal themselves. I just knew that I instinctively knew it wasn't the South American lineage or that path. And I just thought, no, that's not what I'm drawn to. That's not the space. But I was drawn to Sandra Ingerman, interestingly. And you have to write a letter to Sandra to get her to work with you or respond to you or whatever, like to correspond directly with you. You've got to write a handwritten letter. So I did that, and then in that letter you include your email, and then she'll reply to you through your her personal email. And so she did. And so we struck up this relationship, and I did some journeys with her. And similarly to you with Alberto, it was a great introduction into how to journey into that space, to alter my state of consciousness and my awareness, and to be taken to different realms and have these experiences. And what was coming through in terms of the beings, they were much more in the Hindu and Vedic tradition, interestingly. And so one of them was actually Nagakanya, who's the serpent goddess. In my teacher, the Kasnapali tradition, they really they have he particularly has a very strong relationship with her. And without going into the whole story, through a series of months, over almost about 6 to 8 months, I was guided to actually meet my teacher, who is in that tradition, who then asked me all about, did I have a deity? Did I have her as a statue? And I said yes. But the coming back full circle part of that was, I let Sandra know. I said, oh my God, I had this crazy experience. I met this guy, was guided to this person, this teacher, and I didn't say teacher at the time. I said I was, guided to this, shaman. And she wrote back almost immediately an email and said, I'm so happy you found your teacher. And, by the way, I know him. Here's his email.
Wow.
And because I hadn't even met him really yet, I had just discovered him and felt, oh my God, this is the person. And I had ordered a book, and on the front, like, it was his name, and then she had written the foreword.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you've known all along. But she would always say, journey on it, journey on it, journey on the answers, journey on it. I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Tell me. I don't want to have to journey on it, but you have to, because that's where the answers, you really have to strengthen that muscle to do that. But anyway, I just wanted to share that.
And that's also how you trust it, because you received it yourself. It's like, it builds such a deep trust within you when you receive that, rather than when someone tells you.
But the point of that story was, a lot came up around my Japanese ancestry, and coming from my grandmother's Japanese, but my maternal grandmother, and my mom carries a lot of the history, the trauma as a female, and from Japan, and there's so much of that was shown to me. So not only were these Vedic or Indian or Hindu, northern Himalayan gods, actually from goddesses, tantric goddesses, there was a lot of crossover with the Ainu people in Japan, and like Japanese shamanism, and all these other beings that were coming forward, and they're very connected. just based on India and China and Japan, sort of got a lot of crossover thing with Buddhism and Tantric Buddhism, Vajrayana coming over. But anyway, I totally digress, but that was the point of that story.
But it does show, though, that once you open the door, you will be met by that which is for you.
Yes.
So you can be guided on that path. And I find that is actually really amazing with the students I work on, even though our framework is very much Seder, very much the Norse. I know that they will awaken their ancient wisdom, and what comes through is very different depending on their ancestral lineage. So, and that's because that's theirs, that's for them, that's what they are calling forth through their roots from their ancestors. And I love that. So it's just, you just need a door, you need a way in, and be held in a framework initially as you're developing your own framework, your own strength, your own cauldron to hold your magic. And then you kind of move with your cauldron now, and you're on your way. So yeah.
So in your book, I love that you talk about the serpent mother. This is I think a timely topic, but also, as you say, she's a very, very misunderstood goddess.
Yes.
So share how she's misunderstood.
Oh gosh. So there are so many different ways in that. So first of all, many of us actually have a real snake phobia. I actually have a real snake phobia. So I absolutely understand when people are saying to me, I can't work, with snakes or serpents because I have a snake phobia. And I go, so do I. But that's not how she reveals herself to me. She reveals herself to me in a way that she knows I'm comfortable with. Just like many have spider phobias. And of course, we work with the spirit weavers. So there are many different ways actually with this. One is, we have the patriarchal, and I'll talk about that soon, but one is that I feel that the serpent comes with many, many, many different medicines. One is that she shows us how the importance of shedding our skin, and that we don't just shed it once per year, we shed it several times. Whenever we feel we're outgrown our old way of being, we're meant to shed it. And it's also how she sheds to keep herself healthy, because she sheds then old illnesses, old disease. And she's doing it not just by doing a little bit at a time. Once she starts, she will do the whole structure. It will take her a while, but she keeps on going, And it's very beautiful and very graceful the way she does it. So she's actually a very, very gentle healer when she's helping us to shed, which is how I mainly teach her medicine. For me personally, she is also showing me how we can have the venom or the medicine, and how she carries both. It's like that duality in that, and how we can be in the venom, because I saw these ancestral woundings as these poisonous snakes, the venom of that. And she showed me that, yes, when we go into bitterness, blame, when we're not in our power, so we start to, try to manipulate, trying to get our way in different ways. And we are then being trapped in what I see as the ego mind's distorted filters. We can feel that venom build within us, and it starts to poison us. And we can then also take action from this, and like a poisonous tongue, spread it. And she showed me, yes, you can be there, or you can be within me and let me show you how to be the conduit through which this heals. And now you develop the medicine, the antidote that heals this. And I can't remember the whole myth, but it is about Medusa. So Medusa is one of these beautiful goddesses that's been so misunderstood. And she really showed me a lot of this medicine when I journeyed with her some years back. And I can't remember the whole myth now, but there is an aspect of that myth when they're flying with, I think it's with her actually, with this part of her, this snake, where on one side the poison falls and on the other side the medicine falls. And I could see so clearly, it's like we can have this split within us, which is where these distortions come, or we can choose to be the bearer of the medicine of it, that heals it through our own alchemy of that. And that is what she actually represents for me. It's that alchemy of that. And then the misunderstanding of her is when we get caught in that split. Yeah. When we look at the patriarchy, we now look at Eve and the serpent and all of that. So, you know, there we have tree of good and evil, which is the tree of life, which is a representation of the mother goddess. And on her, you have these fruits of wisdom. Yeah, you're not supposed to eat them. And then Eve listens to the serpent who tells her to eat of the fruit of this tree. And the serpent is a messenger of the goddess. So it's the goddess telling Eve, for goodness sake, eat the fruit of your own wisdom.
Yeah, wake up, woman.
Wake up. And then as she wakes up, she goes and tells Adam, it's time to eat. Yeah? And I do feel that is what is now we're awakening to, that, oh my God, that is what it means, and not this distorted lie, the twisting of, no, this was, you shouldn't eat of this, and the serpent was evil, and then Eve got us all to be cast out of heaven and condemned to original sin, and all of that craziness that has followed us for such a long time. And I do feel the serpent mother is one of these key aspects to be able to track it all the way back in time, where that split happened, and then make a different choice.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And there's quite a few authors actually who've been published by Inner Traditions that write about this myth. And Andrew Collins talks about how the site in Turkey, Karahan Tepe, is all about serpent worship. And then there's also the theory of a missing 13th constellation. That's a snake, that's a serpent.
That's
right?
actually when I'm born, because
Amazing.
it's in that in December. Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And
that is the bearer of that. And again, the bearer of that, the poison or the medicine.
Yes, and it's interesting that that's just been omitted, you know. Because purely, but of course, if you look at the Vedic tradition, they actually do recognize the serpent. They have Ketu and Rahu, which is the serpent's head and tail. You know, these different nodes in the sky.
Same in the Norse tradition. Hel, you know, she always comes with her snakes. So that, I mean, in all the goddess tradition, they knew this is, you know, it's a embodiment of feminine wisdom.
Yeah, and even Shiva has, the god Shiva has Vasuki, the serpent who's around his neck, who actually helps suck the poison out of the ocean of milk.
Wow.
In myth story.
Again, amazing. Yes. Yeah. It is that. And it is, I mean, I do feel that we are awakening, and as we're awakening, we have to do this kind of witnessing of all these distorted lies and untruths that we have got caught in. That, I mean, I had one of them actually when it came to the Kundalini energy. Won't go in on that too much now, but let's just say that I journeyed so deep that I saw the three Norns, which are the three spirit weavers in the Norse tradition, and they are represented in your body actually as your meningeal sheets, but that's a different story. But the meningeal sheets cover obviously the brain and the spinal cord, and they showed me that they were also like these three Kundalini rising energies of the silver, the moon, and the sun, the gold, and then the life force within, as their powers, as their weaving ability. So again, and that just came in a spontaneous shamanic journey, and I realized I'm tapping into something. This is going to these deeper truths here. Yeah,
beautiful. I love that. And so on the topic of weaving, you have at the end of your book, connecting, coming back to source and weaving dreams into reality.
Yeah, that's when you then are from the fourth heart chamber, you have now received all of those dreams and visions, all that medicine, all that new expression of life, and you have allowed it to grow. And now you're meant to weave it into your life. You're meant to share it. They're not just for you. Just like, imagine if the fourth heart chamber would not release the blood, it would just hold it to itself. I mean, we would die. And it's the same. We're meant to let it flow. We're meant to share it. These are not gifts for us. They're gifts for everybody. And the spirit weavers, they really help us understand, I feel, the beauty of weaving into the web of life, that it's not just about you, it's about weaving it into that whole structure of life that holds us. And whoever you share something with will then find its way into the weave, and that energy will then be weaved from them and them and them, and it has that ripple effect all the way out. And I think so many can get stuck on, oh, but how will I birth this? How will I share it? And it's like, you just share it in the way you show up.
Yeah.
You weave it into your life through the way you speak with your loved ones, the way you share some of your writing, the way you share your love and your presence. That's how you weave it into your life. And we're weaving all the time.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love that. So beautiful.
Thank you.
And so you have ways for people to work with you. You have your own podcast, people can listen to you. But share all of these things.
Yes, so I'm passionate about sharing shamanic journeys. So on the podcast, Awaken Your Inner Wisdom, you have loads of shamanic journeys. Many were actually recorded live on the shamanic training, because it is through moving through your own experience that it awakens within you. You also got many interviews and some lectures and things on the podcast. And then I run various online courses. You can do online courses for your own development. Again, sharing these incredible goddess myths and teachings and what they mean, and then guiding us on these journeys into the mythical landscape of our soul. And you can do that. Many of them are live webinars, but they're also recorded. And you do that for you. And then, of course, you have some dedicated few that really feel the call and they want to come and train. But that's a long, intense training to become a master practitioner in shamanic energy medicine and say the magic. But that's a long training, minimum 2 years.
And do you have to go in person, come to the UK?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of it is held online, but it's held online live. And you actually have to attend every module. Yeah. So that can be a bit of a shock. It's a proper training. I mean, I'm an osteopath. So I've based my training on how I was trained as an osteopath. So we do a lot of clinic hours, a lot of practice, because that's how you develop it. And there are exams and case studies, and also a lot of having to witness yourself, witness your shadows. It's really intense spiritual work. And I know a lot of people, when they first come, they may not have been ready for that, but they certainly will realize the moment they start.
Yeah, before you can heal others, you have to heal yourself. And
absolutely.
It's a continued journey. It's a continued thing.
Absolutely. You can only guide someone to the depth you've been yourself.
Yes.
That's with this. This is the difference between being a practitioner in the shamanic tradition, and maybe if you're like a mentor or coach, but this comes from your experience, your own wisdom through lived experience. Yeah.
Love it. So your website and all your socials, please share.
Okay, so CissiWilliams.com, NordicLight.academy, and Cissi Williams on Instagram. I don't really like Facebook. I'm on Facebook too, but I prefer Instagram. Yeah.
All of those links will be on the show notes page as well. Below me there. But Cissi, it was such a pleasure to talk to you. This was awesome.
I think this has been lovely.
Thank you so much.
I've absolutely loved chatting with you, actually. It's been amazing. Thank you.